everybody. So, I have the Titanic book for us to read the next couple of chapters, but I promised I would show you what I did so far on the Harry Potter Lego that I started yesterday. I didn't get that far. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and I had a lot of meetings today. So let me show you though. I built the Slytherin Quidditch post thing and the Gryffindor one. And look, this one's really cool. If you go like this, the door opens so that all the little people, all the little Quidditch players can pop out and come walk out from underneath. So thought that was cool. Not sure exactly what the rest of it's going to look like, but I did these two pieces first. Very nice, huh? And I did Harry with his broom, and he obviously caught the golden snitch. And I did Malfoy. So there he is with his Quidditch outfit and his broom. So you'll have to stay tuned and tomorrow see how much more I get done. It's been a lot of fun to build the Lego, but there's a lot of pieces, more than I actually thought there were. So maybe it'll take me a couple more days, but we'll get it done. So I'm going to read some more to you from the Titanic book that we started yesterday. Okay. Chapter 3, Fitting Out the Ship. Fitting out a ship means putting in everything a ship needs, both to carry passengers and to power the vessel. Fitting out the Titanic took 10 months. Installing 29 massive boilers was one of the first jobs. The boilers contained furnaces for coal that would be shoveled in to create fires. The fire would heat the water in the top of the boilers and turn it into steam. The steam would then travel through steel pipes to the engines. The upper decks were constructed and painted, 10 in all. Staircases between decks were built. The grand staircase in first class was a showstopper. It had oak paneling, carved railings, and an expensive clock. A glass dome high above the grand staircase let light stream in. Hundreds of miles of electrical wiring were installed. 2,000 portholes, windows, were put in. 3 giant funnels removed the smoke and fumes created by the coal fires in the boilers. Without funnels, soot would cover the passengers. The Titanic only needed 3 funnels, but the head builder thought 4 funnels would make the ship look grander. The 4th funnel was a fake. In early February 1912, Titanic's 3 propellers were installed at the stern of the ship. 2 outside and 1 in the middle. The stern's the back. Steam from the engines was fed through pipes to the propellers and made their blades turn. This caused the ship to move. So here's a picture of the grand staircase. And this is a picture of the propellers. Oh, then I have a page that's ship vocabulary and a picture, an illustration that has labels, nonfiction text features. Ship vocabulary. Sea travel has its own language. Here are some words to know. Bow, the front of a ship. Stern, the back of a ship. Port refers to the left side of the boat when standing at the rear and facing forward. Starboard refers to the right side of the boat when standing at the rear and looking forward. Bridge is the room where the ship is commanded. Helm is the steering gear of a ship. The helm includes the wheel. Nautical mile, a unit used to measure distances at sea. It's equal to about 6,076 feet. That's almost 800 feet longer than a regular mile. Knot, spelled K-N-O-T. It's a unit of speed equal to 1 nautical mile per hour. I think they're giving us all those words because they must be coming up in the story and they want us to know what they mean. All right. At top speed, Titanic could travel 24 knots, over 27 miles per hour. That wasn't quite as fast as the Lusitania, a Cunard ship, but the Titanic was about more than speed. It was about luxury. On April 2, 1912, Titanic had its sea trials. No tugboats pulled it. Titanic now ran on its own power. Captain Smith and his officers were on board. The crew practiced turns. They tested an emergency stop. The sea trial went without a hitch. After 3 years of construction, the Titanic was finally ready for its maiden voyage. Chapter 4. Stuff and More Stuff. April 10th, 1912 was the big day. The Titanic was set to depart from Southampton, England, but before any passengers could board, the cargo needed to be loaded. Cargo included luggage and personal items belonging to the passengers. One first-class family, the Ryersons, had 16 large trunks. Here's a picture. A fancy red French car belonged to William Carter, who was returning home to Philadelphia with his family and servants. One of the most expensive items was a rare book of 11th century poems called, I'm not sure how to say this word, let's try, the Rubaiyat. Its cover was studded with over 1,000 jewels, rubies, amethysts, and emeralds. The book had just been sold at an auction and was on its way to its new owner in New York. The Titanic also carried commercial cargo, items that businesses sell. In 1912, the fastest way for companies in the United States to get goods from Europe was by passenger ship. Titanic had plenty of space to transport commercial goods, storing them in the lower decks. White Star Line could charge these companies a lot of money. Commercial cargo included things like fabrics, food, cosmetic products, and 76 cases of a red dye called dragon's blood. Once the Titanic began its journey across the Atlantic, no food could be brought in it. Everything needed to feed approximately 2,200 people, a crew of 900 plus 1,300 passengers, already had to be on board. 75,000 pounds of fresh meat, 40,000 eggs, 10,000 pounds of sugar, and 16,000 lemons were only a small portion of the total food stored in the Titanic. Kind of gives you that's the book that had sold for so much. And there's a picture of like the cargo hold, and you can see the car. That's a crazy amount of food, huh? The full name of the ship was RMS Titanic. The RMS stood for Royal Mail Ship. Titanic was to carry mail and parcels across the Atlantic for Great Britain's postal service. There were nearly 3,500 sacks containing 7 million pieces of mail. Once the cargo was loaded, the crew came on board. The head of the ship was Captain Smith. All the crew obeyed his orders. This was to be Smith's last voyage. After 38 years working for the White Star Line, Captain Smith was ready to retire. I'm going to show you a picture of the mail bags and Captain Smith. Okay. The chief responsibility for Smith and his 7 officers was to keep the ship on course, issuing orders to the engine room. The engineering crew had a dirty job in the noisy bottom of the ship. 25 engineers and 176 stokers worked around the clock to keep the boiler full of coal and the engines running. Here's a picture of the boiler room. Smith and his officers also supervised the deck crew. The deck crew was in charge of the day-to-day running of the ship. There were carpenters, lookouts, store clerks, window cleaners, and quartermasters. A quartermaster's job is to look after supplies. The deck crew also included 29 seamen who were trained to operate the 20 lifeboats. Of course, no one imagined they'd need to be used. And then there was the victualling crew. This crew of over 300 people took care of the passengers. They included waitstaff, maids, and attendants. They served food, made beds, and saw to the passengers' everyday needs. The kitchen crew was so big that there were cooks who only made fish dishes, others who only prepared vegetables. There were even cooks who just prepared sauces and soups. Last to board were the passengers. Thomas Andrew, the ship's architect, was the very first. This is a picture of the crew cooking, like all the chefs and stuff. He wanted to make sure the voyage went smoothly. J. Bruce Ismay was among the first passengers to board. He had a fancy parlor suite with a private deck. Over 1,300 passengers walked up the gangways. Musicians, high on the upper decks, played in celebration. Soon the passengers on board were waving to the crowd cheering from the dock. The Titanic blew its whistle, and it was off to sea. From Southampton, England, the Titanic proceeded to Cherbourg, France, 4 hours away. About 300 more passengers came on board while several got off. Then the Titanic traveled overnight to Queenstown, Ireland. Over 100 new passengers and more mail boarded the Titanic. Around 1:40 p.m. on April 11th, the ship finally set out for New York. The Titanic's whistle gave 3 long and deep blasts. A small boat replied with a short honk, and the Titanic let out one final blast. It was the last time the Titanic would see land. So I'm going to show you a picture. It's Thomas Andrew. He's the architect, the person who made the plans to build the ship. And then it'll show the band and passengers coming on. And the last one is a map, which is another nonfiction text feature, a map with labels. Okay, next is chapter 5. So we will read chapter 5 tomorrow. So thank you to everybody who has gotten on my Padlet that I created so that we could all talk to one another. I will put up another question on the Padlet tomorrow so that we keep the questions going to have more and more things to talk about. Okay, thinking of a question now. So I will figure it out and get it on there tomorrow morning. I think that's it that I have to share with you right now. Khaleesi's laying here, but she's not asleep, so maybe I'll bug her and bring her over so she can say hi to you. Come here. Here she is. There she is. She's had a tough day. She had to sit and watch me do meetings for work all day. She thought it was extremely boring, but she still managed to lay here and hang out with me all day. She's my little pal. She's making me miss you guys just a little bit less because at least I have her. Okay, hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if there's anything you need. Please go on Seesaw. It's a perfect place for us to message one another back and forth. Hi, baby. It's a perfect place for us to message one another back and forth and share ideas. Maybe you could talk to me about things you'd like to see or things you'd like to talk about. Okay, I miss you all. Talk to you later.